Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Drew. All right.
So here's the mic for you.
Oh, that was pretty good.
Wow, I had no idea that Seoul was so awesome. I was really thinking, man, we might have to try this about 5 times before we get it right. So, without actually kind of diving into like other questions or introduction, I will actually just ask you directly.
Sure.
So can you just do a little bit of a self-intro about you?
All right.
Yeah.
So, I think the reason why I'm here is because I think 2 things. Because I myself am an entrepreneur, been involved, had my own startup, which started in the US. And also because I'm involved with SparkLabs, which is a accelerator based right here in Seoul, in fact, this building. So, I've had an experience of starting a startup back in 1998 when it was at the dawn of the internet age. And the startup that I started, along with my co-founders, is a company called Hostway, which was a web hosting company, and it's still has since then evolved into a cloud hosting and managed hosting company. And then 2 years ago, I, along with my co-founders, started SparkLabs, which is an accelerator. And for those of you who are not familiar with accelerator, I'm sure I'll have a chance to share with you guys what that's all about.
All right, so I wanted to actually just take one step back, and you from your bio, we know that you've actually majored in biology, and then all of a sudden you said, okay, I'm gonna start a company. So so how did that happen?
So, let me set the stage. So this is 1998. I don't know, just looking at the crowd here today, there are a lot of young faces, so I don't know how many of you guys actually remember the excitement and all the hype that was surrounding the internet, especially the web. It was really taking off, and there are a bunch of us feeling really anxious about being left out. So there are 4 founders of Hostway, myself included. And we're all doing different things. One was a consultant at a big consulting firm in the US. One had a thriving career as an academic in the computer science department as a professor. And I myself was studying biology. And yet another was just working at a company. And then we all just decided to quit and do this thing called the internet. And we're actually not that unique. Back in 1998, a lot of people just left a perfectly good job to start this thing called something called a startup thing in the internet. So I just got caught up on the trend. So that's the honest opinion. The biology. There are people who majored in biology. There are people who majored in finance, economics, and obviously the computer science folks. So that's how I got to be. I'll talk more about this later, but actually my training as a biologist, as a scientist, actually helped me create a great deal as we try to expand the business.
So it seems like you kind of stumbled into a startup, which is actually kind of similar to a lot of things that are actually happening these days. So is there a particular experience that you had as a Hostway founder? And what are the success stories that you could share with us? And then kind of the mistakes that you've made.
So in order for me to answer that question, I think I need to give a little bit more background of Hostway and what problem we're trying to solve. So, when we decide to start something in the internet, we see usually 2 types of startups. One type of startup, they know exactly what problem they want to solve. They have a very strong vision of what the world is going to be once whatever solution that they're working on becomes really popular. So they have a very strong vision, and even before they start, they have a pretty good idea what problem they're solving. And then there's a second type of startups. They don't necessarily know, or they're not quite sure what problem they're solving. They think they should be solving this problem, but they just kind of start something anyway, and then they kind of stumble upon a problem slash solution that is a really, really good fit for what the market's looking for. In our case, we knew we wanted to start something in the internet, and so we went around looking for a problem to solve. So, everybody's experience is going to be a little bit different, but in our case, one thing that we knew was we didn't like what we were doing. We didn't feel fulfilled in whatever walk of life that we're actually leading. So we wanted to do this thing called the internet because it just happened to be popular, and that's what everybody seemed to be doing. So we went around, but before we actually started something, we sat around, table like this, bunch of guys, sitting around and said, okay, what is the problem that we wanted to solve? And we knew that the first business idea was something that was brought, one of my co-founders mentioned was, it was a videotape delivery service. Meaning, you guys remember in the old days when you had the Blockbuster? Does anybody remember Blockbuster?
Yes.
Yeah. Remember the video 대여점 that was everywhere? I mean, that's how we used to consume content. Remember that? That wasn't that long ago, but that's how we used to do it. And so his idea was, hey, how about instead of people, well, what's the pain point there? It's like, well, you have to go to the video store. So why, instead of making people come to the video store, why don't we actually deliver the video to the houses? And then when they're done watching, they'll send it back through the mail system. Does that sound familiar? Yeah. There's a company called Netflix. Right. This is 1996 that he actually had this idea, and then we thought about it. We ran the numbers, and then the video is really bulky, right? So actually, the cost of sending it over there and then receiving it, we're like, oh my God, people are not going to pay like we can make it work $3-4 because that's how much it cost to rent videos back then. So we're like, nah, that's not going to work. Let's keep our day job. Right? So that was the idea. But then, in order for us to do that, we had to open up a website. So we actually looked around trying to open a website, and then we had to find a web hosting company, and it was really complicated, right? It was really complicated. It was expensive, right? This is back in 1998. They didn't have an Amazon cloud back then, And every time that you actually had to buy a server, there was a capital expenditure that you had to make. So and then we thought there has to be a better way. So that was finally the idea that we came upon. And then there was a problem that we stumbled upon. But then we decided to kind of test that idea, right? And this is where I think our kind of, my biology training as well as, a bunch of other guys in it, our problem solving skill came in. I mean, we set up a hypothesis, right? As you know, the scientific method, right? You first observe the market. You observe the nature to see, okay, what are the phenomena that are happening? So as you know, as a startup people, the first thing that you want to do is, okay, what are the problems that people are having? That comes from having curiosity and having the analytical skill to observe what's happening in the natural setting. And then you set up a hypothesis. And a lot of times in the startup world, the hypothesis is in the form of a question or problem that you're solving. Okay, this is really painful for people, right? So then you just kind of, set up a, hypothesis and a problem, and then you set up an experiment to actually prove that hypothesis is actually true. So that's the part of where the solution comes in, and then you set up an experiment and do it. And then we did it. We automated a lot of the things that used to be really manual. And we were able to get to the market with web hosting that was half the cost of our competitors at the time. And lo and behold, I mean, the thing just took off after that. So, that's how I got to be the Hostway guy and, got my first start as a startup.
Wow, and then I believe that you were there for over 10 years?
Yeah, so, it's 1998. And then my official exit was not until December of 2013, which was about 8 months ago.
Okay,
so
I see.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like you just went from here all the way here and started SparkLabs.
Right. I mean,
so
well,
how did that transition work?
Yeah.
What is SparkLabs first?
Yeah.
And then maybe you can kind of work about talk about the transition of how it happened.
Sure.
Yeah.
So we so a little bit so the journey through starting Hostway till starting SparkLab, right? When I said Hostway really took off, I mean, it really did take off. I mean, like first month we launched, our revenue hit like something like, I think it was $20,000. I mean, this was back in a day when you built it, they came, right? The day that we launched our website, there was already a paying customer. We launched the website around the midnight. By 9 a.m., we had a paying customer. And then ever since then, we just never looked back. So we actually missed the whole. It wasn't that we started the business with thinking that we're never gonna get a VC funding. We said we're gonna get a VC funding, but we're so anxious to get the business started. We said we'll launch the business and get the VC funding, right? But we got so busy just servicing our customers, we just never got the time to actually raise funds. And the operating cash flow from the company was enough so that we could actually self-fund ourselves. So when we exited, we instead of going to a VC first and then doing the traditional route, we ended up selling to a private equity in the US. We got to a size where it was big enough and the cash flow was predictable enough and the revenue was sizable enough that we became an attractive target for private equity in the US. So that process started about 3 years ago. After running the company for 10 years, there's a point at where you have to make a decision. You're gonna either continue to do this and make it into a really, really, really big company, or you say maybe somebody else should take over and maybe they should be the ones taking the company to the next level. And all the co-founders decided that we're tired. It's not as fun as it used to be. The company is great. I mean, the guys there are just, the Hostway still exists, and I'm still very much involved in it as an advisor and as a also partial shareholder. But you just kind of make a decision like that, right? And I was searching for the next thing to do. Okay, what am I going to do after selling Hostway, because that was the only thing that I knew, and then because I'm from Korea, I actually left Korea when I was in 7th grade, and my parents are still here, and we had our branch office here for Hostway, so I've been traveling back and forth to Korea. And then got to learn about the startup community here in Korea, because as a hosting company, one of our important customer segment is startup companies, and found out that there's actually unmet needs in Korea. So as you know, as from the energy in this room, I could tell. And because of what I do with SparkLabs, I know there's a lot of activities and and the ecosystem is being built in Korea, but there's still something lacking. And I thought that, I along with my co-founders, we have something meaningful to add, and that was to help Korean companies go global. So with that idea, we started SparkLabs.
I see. So this is now you're going through your 4th class. What are the things that you typically look for? You've already kind of done this. You started, I believe, about last year sometime, and then now it's been the 4th class already. And so can you kind of tell us a little bit more about what you look for in these companies?
Sure. This is our 2nd year in operation in Korea, and for each class we accept about 10 companies in our early stage. And here's what we look for when we consider the companies for being accepted into our accelerator program. The 3 things are, and this is what Jeff Clavier said. He's one of the legendary angel investors in the US, right? And I picked this up from my partner, Jimmy. And 3 A's. Am I allowed to? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
This is yeah.
So 3 A's, right? First of all, you gotta, whatever your idea is, it's gotta have a big ass market, right? So that's the first A, right? And the second A is that whatever problem that you're solving has to be pain in the ass. It can't be something that can be easily solved, right? Because you'll get that question, well, what's the barrier to entry? And is it painful enough for people that they are willing to change their behavior to either download your app or pay for it? So that's the second A, right? And the third A is perhaps the most important, right? And you're not gonna just hear this from me, but you're gonna hear this from pretty much every investor that you're gonna talk to, is you gotta have a kick-ass team. In fact, on the last point, the people who have, 고용하 회장님, he's the 회장님 for the angel investing club here in Korea. He's got this saying, 돈 모으기 전에 사람 모아라고. So I'm sure there are a lot of budding entrepreneurs here and startup guys here. As you think about whether or not you should start a startup, and obviously, clearly, you need funding. But even before funding, what you gotta have is a group of people that share your vision and who can actually execute on that. So those are the three criteria that we use at a high level to select the team. But beyond that, obviously there are a lot of variation in the theme on that. But specifically for SparkLab in Korea, what we look for on top of those three things is this a company that we can actually help? Because the way our program works is that we invest $25,000 and you come into our program. It's a 12-week program, right? There's a space right here. Asan Namjaram is very generous to actually provide the space for free. So anybody who gets accepted into our program gets to spend 12 weeks in the same space as us. And every week there's a teaching session, and before the program, when you get accepted, we match you with the mentors, and then you could check out all the mentors in our website. But is this a company that we can help? Because we could only select 10 companies at a time, and the companies that we look for are the ones who really want to expand the business outside of Korea. Because we feel that because there are other excellent accelerators here, like for example, there's a Future Play here, and there's a Primer here, which is the original accelerator here in Korea, led by Taekyung 대표님, who's right here. But our value add in the Korean ecosystem is very clear, which is that we want to help Korean companies go global using the network and the know-how that myself and my partners have built over the years, as well as the mentor network that we have. So I'll give you a prime example, a very specific example of how that works. Like 배달의 민족 would be, not that they would have taken our investment anyway, but it's one of the hottest companies now, right? I'm sure that anybody who's living in Korea would be very interested in, but they probably know the brand and probably a customer of it and have seen their TV commercials. I don't think they'll be the right fit for SparkLabs, right? Because I think they're doing very well in Korea, but I don't know how to extend that business to outside of Korea, right? But if you have an idea that may not be particularly popular in Korea, maybe it doesn't have a big-ass market in Korea, but you certainly know that it's going to be biggest market outside of Korea, we're interested.
Okay. Can you give us some examples of that?
Sure. I think, there are companies like let's say, one of the companies that came out of our first class is Nori. I think you might have heard of it. They're doing quite well abroad. So it's a online learning platform. So the problem that they're solving is that the education hasn't changed over the last 100 years. It's still teachers sitting in front of a class, and there are many students, and the education is not customized to an individual student, right? And if you think about the use of technology over the last 10 years in technology, we've simply transferred the test and the content that used to be offline to online. Think about it. Think about like even Khan Academy, right? It's really a lot about the video content. It's not that's meaningful, and I think that's significant, but they haven't really solved this problem of, because every kid's different, how are you going to customize the lesson plans per kid? Take an algebra, for example. And it's really meaningfully changing the market. It's meaningfully changing the education, the way education is delivered. But look at the Korean education market. Do you think the Korean parents really care about that? Do you think the Korean parents would really fork over money so that their kids would learn algebra in a meaningful way, in a customized fashion? Probably not.
Right.
Probably the ones that's going to do well in Korea is the ones that going to get the kids to score better on an exam.
Right.
So it's a perfect case. The only way they're going to really succeed is by going global. And I think, I mean, I'm sure they could have succeeded in Korea. In fact, they're doing, pretty well in Korea. But the value of the company and the value that they can deliver to society is so much greater outside of Korea.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an example of a company that we can actually help out. And then we did help out, in not just from, that's an example of a company that we took from accelerator class to the next seed stage. We in fact, invested, we even provided a bridge round. So, we took them through the entire life cycle until they're doing a Series B right now in the US and introducing them to investors in the US as well. I think MimiBox is another one that I could say, right? So MimiBox, very interesting company, great team. They're just awesome executors. Like these guys just show up at their door. They heard about the SparkLab launching in Korea. So they say, hey, they just wrote an application. We looked at them. We interviewed the team. Oh my God. What they do is they do subscription-based e-commerce on the Korean cosmetics. I think they were doing really well in Korea. They had a really great traction even before joining our accelerator class. But then they had this dream. They said, we want to make sure that we want to go outside of Korea and make this a success, right? And in the U.S., there's already a big company called the Birchbox, very well funded, all the best VCs around the world, and we're like, oh wow, you guys have balls, right? But we're not sure how you're gonna do it, but we like your passion, so we took them in, and oh boy, did they prove us wrong in terms of the doubt that we had. They graduated from our class, they went to the U.S. And earlier this year, they also joined the Y Combinator class. And coming out of the Y Combinator in March, I mean, they were a Y Combinator is a accelerator in the U.S. They had, 50 companies coming out of the Y Combinator? They were the top 3, literally top 3. So their just revenue is growing leaps and bounds in the U.S. So that's another example of a company that we like to think that we help to accelerate.
Wow, that's a great story. In terms of the revenue they're generating in the U.S., is there something that you can share with us?
It's growing really fast.
Okay, all right. So point taken. So the next question that I wanted to kind of go through with you was SparkLabs helps companies to go global, but what are some of the things that you see? From a Korean company standpoint, that they're doing well, or the things that they're not doing as well. What kind of advice can you give on that front? Because not everyone can be MimiBox, not everyone can be Nori or some other companies that are going well. So what are the things that that you would advise them on?
Well, I mean, if you want to be, you can. I mean, I think oftentimes what I hear in the Korean market is how difficult it is for Korean companies to go global. I think what they mean is how difficult it is for Korean internet companies to go global, right? Are you kidding me? Really? Korean companies have hard time going global? Look around all the major brands in Korea. Samsung, they're not a global company. LG, that's pretty damn global company in my mind, right? Hyundai Motors, same thing. I mean, these are companies that are started by our probably parents' generation and even older. And they didn't speak as good of English as we do today. I'm speaking English. I'm assuming more than 2/3 of the crowd here actually understands what I'm saying, right? So the first problem that I see is that a lot of Korean young people thinking that it's really hard to go global. And it's not that it's hard to go global, it's just hard to start a business. Doesn't matter. If you're in the US, is it easier for them to go global? No, right? It's definitely, but is it hard to start a business and become successful? Yes. So same thing. So I think I just want to dispel the myth that somehow it's harder for Koreans to go global, right? That's not true. If you ask anybody outside of US, if you ask the people in Israel, you ask the people in Russia, you ask people in Philippines, and even perhaps China, do Koreans have a hard time going global? That's absolutely not true. Koreans have probably, South Koreans in particular, have done a very good job of going global in the last 50 years. I dare anybody to argue against me and with objective facts. Okay? Look at the GDP of this company and how much of it is derived from actually revenues from outside of Korea. Right? Mm-hmm. Look at the objective facts. So there's absolutely no DNA issue here. There's no cultural issue here, guys. Right? Trust me. Those people, those fathers and the grandparents who, they had cultural issues. Even they did it. We don't have that issue. Not our generation, and not certainly the generation that's coming up. So it's in your mind. Remove that mind block. But there are some specific issues, though, right?
Right. So I was going to get to it. So what are some specific issues? Because there are some issues that does exist, and I wanted to kind of ask.
So one of the important things, this is what my partner Jimmy likes to say all the time is, sometimes and a lot of times it's not what you know, it's who you know. So as you know, networking is really important, right? Especially for startups that need to convince investors to invest in you, right? And convince the users to adopt you, and for press to cover you and find you as an interesting. So a certain level of self-promotion is absolutely necessary. And Koreans are really, really bad at self-promotion. It's really bad. My graduate school advisor told me, hey, you guys are all here because you're smart, right? But that's not that important. I need to know that you're smart. Otherwise, it doesn't work, right? There are a million smart people, but I need to know that you're smart. Same thing. It doesn't matter if you're smart, and it doesn't matter if you have the most brilliant idea, but then if you don't have the courage to walk up to someone in a strange environment and then talk about your ideas and network with these people, it's going to be really, really hard for you to do business globally because you're from Korea, they don't know you, you look different, you don't even speak English that well, and you're not even trying to speak to them. So, network parties or in any kind of settings, being able to go out there and self-promote and be very forthright about, and then being comfortable talking to strangers, that's really important. That's really important. And even in a setting like this, I really encourage those of you who, at least ones in the startup community, there are a lot of important people here. There are a lot of people who are actually investing money. I would just walk right up to them and talk to them, right? I mean, you can't force those kind of relationships, but it doesn't start if you don't talk. And that's one thing that I say that a lot of the Korean startups are having trouble with. But there are ways to get over that.
Right. Thank you. I really hope that you guys really take the opportunity to get to know others around you, and hopefully you will.
And that's why I think the startup grind is great. I mean,
thank you.
no, really. I mean, in a casual setting like this, what stops you from talking to the guy next to you or gal next to you, and then just interacting, right?
Fantastic. So in terms of giving advice to your portfolio companies now, I mean, so how do you figure out, like, how do you help them, generally, and then specifically, I'll ask some of the questions. Yeah.
Well, I mean, during the 12-week period of time, everything culminates in what's called a demo day. So the demo day is when you get in front of a crowd like this, maybe actually a little bit bigger, and you present your ideas, and what you're trying to get out of that is more funding, because you need funding to keep growing your company. But so during that 12 weeks period of time, it's about your products and services and just helping the companies think through all the issues so that they could focus. I think one of the toughest things as a startup that I went through, as well as I observe in a lot of our portfolio companies, is deciding what to focus on, right? Because you only have limited resources, and you have a hard enough time determining what problem you're trying to solve, and then when you actually have determine that this is a problem that you like to solve, and there's a certain method that you got to use to arrive at the solution, right? And I think for a lot of them, they just haven't gone through that enough to see. It's really helpful to have a mentor network as well as our partners who ask you the tough questions to make sure that you're working on the right things. Because we would be there. I mean, you do the work. The startups do the work. So our job is to make sure that you're focusing on the right things. But even that answer is yours. You got to come up with that. But I think what we do is we ask the right questions, and we ask the right questions in a way that's very. We don't sugarcoat, and our mentors don't sugarcoat our comments. I mean, we try to go to the heart of the matter, because it's either that or you're not going to survive. So I think there's a lot of those consultative, mentoring that's happening. So that's the number one way that we help you, especially during the 12 weeks program. And then after that is actually something where I think this is where a lot of the startups find it useful. And this is where, remember I said there's a way to get over that networking challenge, is that we actually introduce you to the right investors, and we teach you how to talk to the investors, how to prepare for that investor deck, so that when you're actually talking to investors, you're not wasting their time, and also you're making the most out of it. I mean, we can't guarantee you that you're gonna actually get the investment, but at least, whatever your idea is, you wanna put the best foot forward, right? And those are the kind of things where, whether it's a legal structure or it's how, talking to investors in the right way, these are not unique problems to you. So think about how much more helpful it is if you had somebody who's done it 100 times, helping you out, right? So that's a pretty concrete example of how we help the, and then it doesn't just end with when they graduate from our program at the demo day. I mean, that relationship just continues. So as they go through the Series A, B, and C, we're constantly involved with just ideation, as well as, just funding issues, and just growing pains in general.
I see. And one of the main problems as entrepreneurs face, and certainly I face the same type of problems, is we continuously have we have too many features that we want to focus on, and we have too many things that we want to try. What kind of advice do you have to these the entrepreneurs who have this problem of too many features, and thinking through that?
Yeah, I mean, it's that's a feature creep, and lack of focus is not just a problem by the startups, but all the organizations. But I think it's more acute for the startups because of the extreme limited resources, and well, let me give you an example with Mango Plate, right? So Mango Plate is a company.
I didn't know this is gonna go there.
Yeah. So me, instead of talking in generalities, let me talk some specifics, right? So Mango Plate guys had, when they originally came to us, they say, we want to solve this problem of not having a really trustworthy 맛집 recommendation site or app in Korea. And then we all share that problem. Yeah, actually, we agree with you that is a problem. Okay, what's your solution? Right? So they say, well, our solution is, it's first of all, it's going to be recommendation by your friends. So if you log in with a Facebook login, it's going to be recommended by friends. And we're like, actually, that's pretty good. That's pretty clever. And then, so we knew that it was a big enough market. We knew that it was a pain in the ass problem. And then by interviewing the team members, we knew that they had a kick-ass team. So they come in, and then they're trying to solve this problem. But where do you start? Where do you start, right? Because the biggest problem that they had was the cold start problem, right? Because, like any matcha program, when they started, they had 0 users, right? So when they come in, there's no restaurant information, and there are no friends, right? So it's like, well, so what problem do we solve first, right? So we kept asking the question, well, what do you think? I mean, what problem do you think you should be solving first? No, we should be getting friends. Well, no, they don't. The users know who their friends are. Right? So why don't you guys, so what do you think you should be solving? Well, what about at the supply side? Supply meaning, what about the actually information on the POIs, right? Do you have an accurate information on the restaurants? It's like, no. Well, how can you be a matchup app without restaurant information, right? So what do you think you should be solving first? Maybe we should have a restaurant information. So I mean, they may have gotten there on their own, and I'm sure they would have, right? But it's keep asking those questions,
Right.
and then like being there when they have these questions. I mean, they may even have answers in their mind. I think this is what Reid Hoffman of the LinkedIn said, is that you surround yourself with a lot of smart people and you form certain hypotheses or theses in your mind. But then what you do is, before you actually spend a lot of expensive time of your developers and going raising money and doing all kinds of stuff, you write an investment thesis and then you test it out. You talk about your idea with the smart people that surround you. See if you're getting a consistent feedback. Well, think about it. The stuff that's gonna have taken 3 or 4 months to solve by after developing it and then getting the real life feedback, you could have actually gotten that feedback had you written a pretty concise investment thesis or a project thesis, and then just kind of talking in about 20, 30-minute sessions with the people that surround you, right? So that's what I think, that's how we help companies
Right.
avoid the feature creep. Because, one of the things that we do really, really well is, making sure that our entrepreneurs really become brutally honest with themselves, and then also become honest with their capabilities. I mean, what can you really do in 12 weeks? That's another thing that we help. You have 12 weeks. In 12 weeks, you're getting up on a stage and presenting in front of a lot of people, okay? So if you don't have a working product, you're dead. So unless you think that you can do this in 12 weeks, don't do it, right? So that also helps people to just focus.
I see. And you've certainly helped us a lot, and then you've helped a lot of the other companies in the same class. But if you were giving like direct something, actionable recommendation as to, okay, if I get faced with the question of, hey, which are the features that I should put in to my minimal viable product, how would you actually kind of help them answer this?
Well, so those are the precise the kind of things that we generally try to avoid, right? Because you guys run the company. The founders and the founding team are the ones who are going to run the company. They're going to develop. So we really, really try to avoid giving like a direction. I mean, we're not an incubator. We're an accelerator. So we act as an enzyme. Right? So the fundamentals of the chemical reaction has to be there. We just help you to get kind of over that hump, right? This is my biology background talking, all right? So we're an enzyme. If you look up the word enzyme, enzymes actually don't do anything original. We only do whatever original ideas you have. We try to just get over that kind of initial hump, right? And then we really, really have to watch ourselves from giving a direct direction like that. But I think what we do is we ask the questions. Now, as you probably experienced this with us too, but we can't help ourselves sometimes. So sometimes we go like, I know this is right. So you got to do this. And then we get pissed off when you don't do it, but we get over that very quickly.
And then we'll get you in trouble.
Yeah. But seriously, we really don't take that personally. And that's only because we feel really passionate about it.
Right. Well, thank you. And what I'd like to do is actually open it up to questions in the crowd. So I have a mic here. So. Hello? Is it working? Can you test? Anyone? Questions? All right, so there's a question over there.
Of course, it's a non-Korean who asked the first question,
That's
right?
Thank you for that. My name is Vivek. Very interested to be part of here, and I have a question for you. What kind of preparation do you seek? Do you want the startups to do before applying for the accelerator program? As in, they should have formulated some kind of idea, a business plan, or a working model or prototype. Is there something as a specification that you call out for?
Yeah, I mean, we expect you two guys have a pretty fully thought out problem statement. And we expect you to have a pretty fully thought out a solution to that problem. And I can tell you right now, oftentimes the ultimate solution may not be that, but we at least expect you to have thought it out. And then the third thing is we expect you to have at least more than one person in the team. We don't invest in companies that have just one person. Depending on your idea, if you need a business guy, you need a sales guy, you need a marketing guy, and most importantly, you need developers. So we expect you to have a fully thought out core founding members already set. If you come to us and say, well, after we get in your program, we'll form the team, then that's probably not a good fit for us.
Oh, yeah. Please give him the mic.
Yeah, so I think the question was, what if you're looking for a co-founder? I think good luck, and then this is a kind of event that go to startup grind or go, I don't know, do whatever you have to do, but come to us after you find them or her.
Any other questions? Yeah, here. Is the mic working?
I'm a Korean American who just came back to the motherland to try to start the business, and I was wondering if my status, specifically I'm an F4 visa holder, and if that kind of stuff, or whether you're a foreigner or native Korean, whether that kind of stuff has any hindering consequences to starting a business or anything, like also whether being able to speak the language fluently has any kind of consequence?
Well, as far as SparkLab is concerned, no. But I mean, depending on the business that you're starting, I mean, speaking Korean might be pretty important. Not always, but it all depends, case by case. And I think there are some specific cases where there's some funding sources that are not available to you if you're not Korean. However, I think those are all problems I can overcome. And I don't see that as a big problem. In fact, it could be a plus, the fact that you have experience outside of Korea.
Thank you.
Oh, there's another question there.
Can I please get a question from like native Korean?
Please. Oh, by the way, you
Was I
can
that
ask.
not interesting? 한국말로 물어보셔도 돼요, 정말로.
So,
Okay.
I feel like you're disappointed that I'm asking a question all the time.
No, this is like. No.
Please.
This is working. So you're an accelerator based in Korea, and you're focusing on companies that are trying to internationalize or go global, right? How do you feel about companies that are trying to tackle a problem that might not be relevant in Korea, where the petri dish, so to speak, is not actually here to test on?
So, are you talking about companies located outside of Korea?
Korean companies, Korean founders, Korean people. So there's a lot of great talent here,
Yeah.
but some of the problems that are tackled are uniquely Korean, or some international problems that people might aspire to might not exist in sort of in mass, at critical mass in Korea.
Yeah, so that's exactly kind of people that we're looking for. So we want to be the kind of the venue or the launching platform for those people who may have thought, hey, this will never work in Korea because market's too small, or there are big companies or chaebols, they will just come and dominate. But only if we could go outside of Korea, this will work. We like to find that company. Like today's big news in the TechCrunch was, what was that? The Twitch was bought by Amazon, right? You guys read that? Twitch? You know what Twitch is about? What is it about? Yeah, well, who are the biggest freaking gamers in the world? Well, how come we don't have a freaking Korean company that's being bought by Amazon for $1 billion? I mean, that's a company that should have come out of Korea. Wouldn't you agree? Why was that? I think there's a problem there, and that's the problem that we're trying to solve. Right?
I think he had a question. Oh, yes.
그 아까 얘기 들은 걸로 보니까 그 한국 기업이 한국 스타트업이 그 미국이나 이제 다른 나라에 진출할 때 별로 사실은 어려움이 없고 기존에도 많이 했었다고 말씀하셨는데 사실은 또 예전이랑 상황이 다를 수도 있고 삼성이나 그런 기업들은 또 시간이 굉장히 오래 걸리면서 국제적으로 성공을 했다고 생각하거든요. 그래서 이제 스타트업들이 해외 진출할 때 전혀 뭐 한국에서 하는 것보다 힘들지 않다고는 생각을 안 하는데 그런 문제들이 주로 어떤 문제들이 있고 그런 문제들을 어떤 식으로 도와주고 계시는지 궁금합니다. 네.
그건 당연히 아까 좀 제가 그렇게 약간 그 드라마틱하게 말씀을 드렸는데 물론 문제가 있죠. 그러니까 예전에도 삼성이나 현대 같은 기업도 그 어떤 특별한 그 정부의 도움이 없었으면 크게 힘들었을 거예요. 그러니까 그 특히 그 수출을 해야 되는데 그 융자를 받아야 된다. 근데 정부에서 그거를 개런티 안 해주면 그 조그만 회사가 조그만 나라에서 어떻게 융자를 받았겠어요. 이제 그런 이제 제도적인 이제 도움이 있었다는 건 확실한 거고. 그러면 지금 상황에서는 뭐냐? 아시다시피 그 우선은 이런 그 제가 놀이 example을 한번 드릴게요. 그러면 이제 놀이가 이제 미국에서 사업을 해야 되잖아요. 근데 그러려면 이제 거기는 그 프로덕트 자체가 그 학교 그 학군에다가 팔아야 돼요. 그러니까 B2B잖아요. 그러니까 그 B2B 영업을 해야 되는데 그럼 이 친구들이 걱정하는 부분이 저런 거죠. 그 B2B 영업을 해야 되면은 그 미국 사람을 고용해야 되는데 그럼 뭐를 고려해야 되고 이 사람들 컴펜세이션을 어떻게 해줘야 되고 그런 아주 그냥 소소한 것 같지만은 아주 구체적인 질문들이 나오는 거죠. 그 저희 같은 경우는 그거를 갖다 다 멘토 네트워크를 통해서 그 에듀케이션 택을 갖다가 팔아온 사람들한테 다 물어봐가지고 그 사람들하고 연결시켜 줘가지고 거기서 인터뷰도 같이 하게. 그 굉장히 구체적이죠. 당연히 저런 것도 합니다. 미국에다가 법인 설립하고 그런 거는 당연히 충분히 우리 그 윌슨 손시니 같은 그 법률 그 미국의 그 아주 그 실리콘밸리에서 유명한 그 변호사들이 저희 이제 그 도움을 주니까 하는 건 당연하고 그런 거 외에 더 어떤 게 있냐 그런 게 됐고 또 미국에서 사업을 하려면 미국에서 투자를 받아야겠죠. 그러면 거기서 어떤 투자자들하고 어떻게 얘기를 해야 되는지 그런 걸 연결해 주는 역할 이제 그런 게 있고 또 아니면은 이 또 꼭 그 이제 여러 가지 이제 그러니까 그냥 막연하게 궁금한 게 많아요. 그렇잖아요. 근데 그게 어디 이렇게 딱 가서 위키피디아에 나왔지가 않아요. How for Korean companies to start a business in the U.S. 그런 거 없잖아요. 이제 그런 거를 갖다가 좀 막연한 질문도 그냥 편하게 할 수 있는 하나의 그 컨피던트도 있고 또 좀 약간 어디 가서 물어보기 쑥스러운 질문도 이제 우리한테는 그냥 편히 할 수 있고 이제 그런 걸 갖다가 다 이렇게 그 이제 answer 줄 수 있다는 거 자체 하나라서도 좀 도움이 되겠죠. 예.
Okay, so there's a question in the back. All right.
I'm going to do both Korean and English as well. Hi, my name is Mia. I'm actually running a small venture. It's called Tapzin. We are in the digital media industry. And I have a question, one thing actually. I've been around several venture forums and I met several other investors, angels, and accelerator, etc. And last time actually, I got really shocked that I got information saying like, oh, we're not interested in investing any in media industry. And I was really shocked. So my question is that because of the culture related, or what would you, I would like to ask your advice or your perspective. What would you see about the future or potential of growth potential of media, especially digital media industry down the road? And if there is, then how we can actually overcome that obstacle to go to the global market? I know there are many people saying about K-pop, K-culture, whatever, etc. But we really want to expand our platform in global marketplace, not only Korean American or Korean or whoever, like overseas people, but also other ethnic group as well. But we are in trouble. We don't know how to.
So
do
when
it.
you talk about media, digital media, what do you mean like a traditional media?
No, digital media means like you can see
Like a
your
YouTube?
content through smart device.
Okay.
And the investors say, oh, we're not interested in the media industry because it doesn't have any strong potential to
To
expand.
grow. So you mean like a traditional media consumed? 그러니까 그 신문 같은 걸 갖다가 이제 디지털 포맷으로 보는 그 말씀하신 건가요? 아니면은
그건 아니고요.
예.
It has to be accommodate smart device environment as well.
Well,
그런데도
I mean, I don't know what investors you talk to. 그러니까 so I mean, obviously digital media is expanding exponentially every year.
Right.
So there's a great potential there. but it all depends on how you define digital media. And this is where SparkLab could really help. 그러니까 SparkLab가 가장 큰 도움을 줄 수 있는 건요. 전 세계에 스타트업도 많지만 스타트업에 인베스팅하는 VC들도 많아요. 근데 다 그 VC들이 자기만의 특성을 갖고 있고 만약에 뉴욕에 있는 VC들을 만났다면은 그런 얘기는 안 들었을 거예요. 근데 이제 한국에 있는 VC들은 아무래도 그게 한국 마켓에 포커싱이 돼 있거나 아니면 자기가 또 그 자기 투자들이 받은 맨데이트 있잖아요. 그러니까 그거를 뭐 자기가 좋다고 투자할 수 있는 게 아니고 그 자기가 보고 있는 마켓을 갖다가 봐야 되고 아마 그런 게 있기 때문에 뭐 그런 반응을 받으실 수 있고 아니면 그 아이디어 자체가 별별이 없을 수도 있어요. 그게 아마 그 어떻게 보면은 아니면 잘 설명을 못 하셨던지. 근데 그런 게 아니었다면은 아마 가장 결정적인 이유가 그 말씀을 나누신 VC가 거기를 잘 모르던지 아니면 자기 포커스 에어가 아니던지. 그러니까 만약에 핀텍을 한다 그러면 그러니까 요즘에 조금 뜨는 그 파이낸스 텍 같은 거는 런던이나 뉴욕에 가면 그런 거 인베스팅하는 사람 많아요. 근데 이제 그런 걸 잘 이제 찾아가야죠. 그거를 또 그렇게 잘 찾아갈 수 있는 길잡이로 할 수 있는 사람이 있어야 되고. 근데 디지털 미디어 자체는 굉장히 크고 있다고 보고 앞으로 가능성은 많고 지금 오늘도 트위치도 디지털 미디어잖아요. 그 1조에 팔렸어요. 아니요, 코리안 마켓이 어중중해서 그래요. 그러니까 아예 이스라엘처럼 작으면 무조건 밖으로 나가는데 한국은 이게 좀 애매하거든요. 여기서도 잘 먹고 잘 살고 있거든요. 그러니까 여기서 한번 해보자. 왜 더 편하니까. 그러니까 이제 근데 또 막상 올라가 놓으면은 또 욕심이 나는데 이제 밖으로 가고 싶은데 이제 그때는 또 더 힘들어지는 거죠. 왜냐하면 사이즈가 있고 또 이게 또 먹여 살릴 식구도 많으니까 그냥 맘대로 막 뭐 딴 데 갈 수 있는 게 아니거든요. 그러니까 좀 애매하다 보니까 좀 그런 문제가 생기는데 그냥 제 생각에는 정말 이건 좀 개인적인 생각인데 저는 뭐 제가 맞다고 맨날 주장하고 다니는데 딴 사람들은 아니라고 그러는데 그냥 저는 그 마인드 블락인 것 같아요.
All right. So I think we can take one more question.
Hi, I'm Jason, and my team and I are about ready to launch our beta for one of our applications. And I was wondering, this goes for June as well, how to launch a beta, and what do you look for?
So, launching a beta. I mean, how many betas are you going to launch?
I mean, it's our first one, so we want to, make sure that it's the only one.
Okay, so have you kind of tested the market? So essentially, we had when we first initially kind of tested out the market, we literally tested with almost like a handful of restaurants, like you mentioned, and we kind of did it over and over again. I would suggest that in hindsight, I would probably think about exactly what your minimum viable product is and make sure that we have that type of testable chunks before going. So if you feel that you have a very strong product that you can go to market and you can actually see this particular section or your app that is fully developed, then go for it. If you are just testing it just for the hell of testing it, I would suggest holding back a little bit more and thinking more about that. Yeah.
Do you have any tips from having one user to going to 1,000?
One user to going to 1,000. It depends on the actual application itself. It actually depends on the service that you're going. I mean, you can get from 1 to 1,000 in like a day.
Well, if you're doing enterprise, software solution, one's enough.
Right.
If you're doing a consumer application on mobile, usually the minimum set that you should even have tested before you go beta is about 100. Right? So this is like alpha, like as soon as you have a viable product, you gotta, even before you make a public beta, you could do closed beta with 52 and 100 people. And then, you gotta make sure that, you're trying to test the idea that you actually have a viable product. And then the biggest problem that I see with a lot of the people, and then I've done this myself, is that on one hand, you haven't thought through the problem enough to actually know what the viable product is, So you're just kind of wavering. Oh, is this enough? Is this enough? And what ends up happening then is you actually keep delaying and delaying. You keep adding more features because you're not sure, because you didn't write that good project thesis and investment thesis about what it is that you want to test. This is what happens with a bad hypothesis too and bad experiment plan in science. You just keep delaying it because because inside you're not sure. And that's the worst position that you could be in.
All right. So thank you very much. I think this concludes our fireside chat portion of the evening. Thank you very much. Yep.
Thanks.
Woo! Woo! Thank you very much.